Next, we are going to do the ball. So let's add a new scene here, and we're going to click Other Node. And we're going to make this a rigid body 2D. And rigid body 2Ds are collision objects that are moved by a physics simulation. So these are objects that cannot be controlled directly, as it says here, such as a character body 2D, which we're going to use in a little bit. Like the player, for instance, you would want to move him with W, A, S, and D. You would use a character body for that. But for a rigid body, we're not going to be controlling it directly. We're just going to be setting its velocity, and this physics simulation is going to be controlling its movements. So we got a rigid body 2D set up here. Let's go zoom in on the origin, and you can click F to center that. And let's rename this to ball. Go ahead and add a collision shape on that. So every physics object needs a collision shape. And let's also add a sprite 2D. So under this, when you have the sprite 2D selected, go ahead and drag and drop the ball texture in there. And here's our ball. And let's turn on grid snapping and do a 2x2 pixels. That's good. Let's click on our collision shape and add a circle shape 2D. And pressing Q, you can switch back to selection mode and just drag this so it matches the sprite. Okay, let's click on our ball here and set up its collision layers and collision mask. So for the ball, let's add another layer here, or name another layer and name it ball. So the ball is not going to be on the world layer, it's going to be on the ball layer, and it's going to be looking for collisions on the world layer. So it is looking for those colliders that we set up earlier on layer 1. It's going to be looking for those colliders on mask 1. A few more things here. For gravity scale, we're going to want to turn that to 0. We don't want our ball to be affected by gravity. And under contact monitors, if you don't have this set up, your rigid body 2D will never actually call the body entered signal. So for a rigid body 2D, you're going to need to turn on contact monitors and max contacts reported. Let's turn that up to 1. If you leave that at 0, it also won't trigger a body entered signal. So let's make sure we have those two things turned on. Also here for linear velocity, let's set an initial linear velocity to 100 on the y-axis. So the ball will move down, just so that we can test it out in our arena. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's make a new folder here called ball. And that's saved. So we don't even have a script on this yet. It's just purely acting from its rigid body components here. And let's add that to the game arena. So now we have our ball here. Let's position that directly in the middle of the arena. 640 divided by 2 and 360 divided by 2. So that's directly in the center. So now if we start this game, our ball should move down. So there we go. And it's hitting that bottom collider. All right. Now let's go back to our ball scene. And to get it to bounce off of the collider, we're going to need to add a physics material. So right here, let's add a new physics material and let's click into that. Let's turn bounce all the way up and let's turn friction all the way down. So now let's go back into our game and our ball should bounce back and forth now. There we go. We have bounce. And as you can see, the ball is slowing down as it's bouncing. So it has some drag on it. So in Godot, there's actually some default drag settings. So if we go into, where's physics? Here we go, physics. Let's go to 2D physics. And right here you can see a linear damp and an angular damp. So we have a linear damping of 0.1, so it's losing 10% of its speed. We want to turn that to 0, and angular damping, we want to turn that to 0 as well. We don't want our ball to be slowing down. So let's click play one more time. And let's see, our ball should maintain its velocity, even though it's bouncing off of the walls. So there we go, that's great. Let's go back to our ball scene, and we can reset our linear velocity to 0, 0 now, because we've tested that out and everything's working fine. Next, we are going to do the game manager. So for our game manager, we're going to use an auto load. And what an auto load is a global script that is available throughout the entire game project. So we can access it from anywhere. So under our source folder here, let's make a new folder called auto loads. And in that auto loads folder, let's create a new script and name this game_manager. We can open up the game manager script here. We're going to want to go to project settings again, go to the globals tab, and let's find that script that we just created and open it up here. And it's going to give it a name of game manager, and we'll add it there. So now it's an auto loaded script. It's available in every scene in the game. And let's write some code. So let me grab my other project here, see where I'm at. Okay, so let's start with a couple constants. Do ball start velocity. And this is going to be a vector2. And let's set that to a vector2 of -200 and 0. So -200 is going to make it move left on the x-axis. If we go to our game here and look at the arena, this is 0, 0. And down in the bottom here is 640 by 360. Right in the top corner here, this is going to be 640 by 0. And down in this corner here, this is going to be 0 by 360. So if our ball is here in the middle at, what would that be, 360, 180. If we're moving -200 in the x direction, then the ball is going to move to the left. So negative in the x direction is left, positive in the x direction is right, and positive in the y direction is down, and negative in the y direction is up. So in our script here for the game manager, this is basically going to set the balls. We want to set the ball's initial velocity to go to the right. Let's also do a ball start position. That's going to be a vector2 as well. And let's set that to a vector2 of 320 by 180. We're right in the center. I like to statically type all of my variables. You don't have to do this. You can do it like this, and Godot will just know that to set this variable to a vector2. But I like to do this. It makes debugging a little easier. It makes GDScript just a tiny bit faster, and it just looks cleaner as well. So let's go ahead and get a reference to the ball. Actually, you know what? We're going to need a reference to the ball scene. So we're not actually going to have the ball start in the game initially. We're going to add it in code when the game runs for the first time. And we're going to do that to avoid an issue with rigid body 2Ds, which I will talk about later. So this is going to be the ball scene. This is going to be a packed scene. And we're going to preload our ball scene. So go ahead and drag and drop the ball scene in there. So now we have a reference to the ball scene itself. And we can actually go ahead and delete the ball scene from our game right now. Go ahead and have another variable here for the ball instance. And so this is going to be the actual scene itself once it's in the game. And that will be the rigid body 2D. So let's go ahead and go into a ready function. And in our ready function here, we are going to add the ball to the game. So let's go ahead and make a function here, let's hit pass for right now, and let's make another function called add ball to game. And in here, you're going to take that ball instance variable, and we're going to instantiate our ball scene and save it into that ball instance. So now the ball instance is instantiated, and we need to add it to the game scene. So to do that, we're going to need a reference to the game scene. And the easiest way that I found to do this is to just grab it with get node. So we can go get node root game. So our game is right here. What's going on here? Okay, this needs to be an on ready var. All right, for anything that's already in the scene, we need to use on ready to grab that. So real quick, let's go ahead and click run. And let me just show you what this get node is doing. So if we click on the remote tab here, this is showing our game actually running. You can see the root here, the root window. And under that, we have our GameManager node. That's our auto load. And it's just a node. And then we have our game here, which is a node 2D. So under root game, that's how we're finding this. And capitalization matters. So make sure you have a capital G here for game, because we capitalized it here. So now we have a reference to our game scene. So we can do game scene.addChild, and we'll add the ball instance. So this is going to add our ball instance back into our game. And we can also set its position. So let's do ball instance dot set deferred global position. And let's set that to ball start position. And the reason I'm using set deferred here is rigid body 2Ds really don't like to be messed around with. They don't like their position set at all. But if you do have to set your position, you don't want to set it on the same frame that you instantiate it and add it to the scene. So set deferred is going to wait one frame, and then it's going to set its position. If we did this instead, we can actually test this out. Ball instance dot global position equals ball start position. This might work now just because we're adding. Let's test that out and see if it throws an error. So let's go ahead and add that in, and the ball's not there. So the ball's not there because we didn't call add ball to game in our ready function. So now the ball should be there, and it is. And it's not giving us any debug errors. So I'm going to leave this commented out for the time being. And when we get to resetting the ball and all that, if we still don't have any issues, then we probably don't need to set this deferred. It's probably okay. to set its global position right when you instantiate it. But if the ball was moving and being affected by the physics engine, it will give you a whole bunch of problems trying to set its global position after its initial setup. So we'll just leave that there for now. We might need it, but it looks like we don't need it for now. We can just directly set its global position. So next, let's get the ball moving again. So we're going to do function input. And this is going to grab any keyboard or mouse inputs and send them into this function as an event. So let's say if event dot is action pressed, and here we need to set up some input events. So let's go to the input map here, and we're going to call this action start. And so as our start action, we want to hit the space bar. So I'm hitting space bar here and adding that, and you hit the plus sign. And so space bar is now associated with the start event. And for us to reference that start event, we just do start here as a string. So if event.isActionPress start, then let's set our ball instance.linear velocity equal to the ball start velocity. We're also going to need a Boolean up here called isGameStarted. And we'll set that to false initially. And under here, we'll say isGameStarted equals true. And here we'll do another and statement, and we'll say and isGameStarted is false. So if we press spacebar and isGameStarted is false, the exclamation point flips this variable. So if isGameStarted is true, then this statement makes it false. So this is basically just flips whatever isGameStarted is. And that should make our ball move. So let's go ahead and try that out. Hit space, and there we go. Our ball shoots off.